Welcome to Vampire Radio! Of course, my camera's gonna die, so I gotta go as quickly as possible. Hola, 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 and welcome to another edition of Vampire Radio. I am your hostess with the mostest, Shelly from Kelly. And the audio sucks right now because I don't have my microphone hooked up because I just got done doing a live stream with my members. And I am running behind, but I want to make sure to get this episode up tonight because it's very special to me. As you guys know, I was using AMP app for a while and I've been behind in getting the episodes up for you guys because I have to edit out the audio on some of it because it has music, licensed music. So that's been holding me back, but I was like, you know what? I have this interview, the first ever Vampire Radio Live, and I was gonna originally have this on AMP app with Reby Hardy, however you prefer to refer to her as. And I was just like, you know, I need to get this up. It's a really great episode. I say when, I say who. So I give to you this awesome interview that I had with Reby Hardy, or Reby Sky, however you like to prefer to call her. Welcome to Vampire Radio, Reby Hardy.
Hey, we made it.
Oh my gosh, we made it. So, oh my gosh, here it is, your cute little room. I just love it so much. The lights, the spookiness. Because, as you know, I think that's where we vibe. We both love spooky, but we both love pink.
Yeah, it's literally, we have like adjacent backgrounds right now. Very similar.
A little different details, but it's so cute. So how are you doing today, Miss Reby?
Oh, good. I just finished them just in time. I have vampire nails on right now for Vampire Radio. Little fangs on. Yeah, I was trying to match. I was on live earlier today and I was talking about how I was going to be on and everybody was really excited, so I'm pumped.
Yes, awesome. So first off, I have to say, I know I told you this, but I have to tell the listeners and the viewers, I thought it was so cool that for out of nowhere, I became obsessed with that Bunnie gal that's married to that Jelly Roll fella.
Yeah.
And like what turned me on to like wanting to know who she was on Snapchat. It kept like giving me those little recommendations where it's like the different like stories or whatever, and it kept saying like Jelly Roll's wife's a gold digger and da. And I'm like, oh, God, who is this Jelly guy? Like in this Bunnie, she's real cute. Like, what's going on here? So when I looked it up, I was like, where do people see she's been with them from the beginning, bitches? So like, where is this
him? Literally, their story is so insane how she was the one with money and literally supporting him through it. And then he popped off and made it big. And like, it was because she was that foundation for him from the jump. So I hate that, man, because people just want to assume that because they just figure that's all women are good for. Honestly, I just like every time I hear anything about something like that, I'm like, just say you hate women and move on, because that's really the root of it all. Like, she's such a boss and she has hustled her whole fucking life. She held that man down and now they're like thriving together. Shut the fuck up. But she's cool as hell. I was just over there at her studio and it was a lot of fun.
So what's funny is, so that's what got my attention. So immediately I start looking her up. I want to know more about her. No offense to her husband, but I was like, this chick is my vibes. And so then I'm telling you, like maybe 2-3 weeks into looking at her content, all of a sudden you popped up. And I was like, Reby and her. And then what tripped me out was when I was getting to more familiar with her, I was like, this is like Reby and Matt. Like, this reminds me of Reby. I kept saying, this reminds me of Reby and Matt, because for me, this is just my opinion. From the get-go, when you got together with Matt, you just seemed like you like just had his back hard. And like when he had those hard times and everything, like you were there, and people don't want to remember that. And that's cool if they don't want to remember it because they don't want to remember him like that. But those are the same people who come after you. And it's like, she had
Mhm.
to live and try to get this man together. And that's why, like, with the Bunnie and the Jelly guy, I was like, this is like, and then when you popped up on there, I was like, dude, see?
The
So how did that come
multiverses are
about?
crossing.
How
Do
did
you
you
know
get
that
hooked up with her?
that she just reached out on my TikTok, which is crazy. And I literally just a comment on TikTok, and I was like, what the hell? Like, so, because it's same thing. I knew who she was. I'm not like a country person at all, so I had no idea. And then they like flew me out, and it was so fun. We went to Nashville. And that podcast was the catalyst for me losing 50 pounds this year. I went at the beginning of the year, and it's funny that you even found that podcast, because I feel so bad, and I even tell her this like to this day. I feel like such a shitty friend and such a shitty guest, because like I never promoted that, because when I saw the preview, she like sent me a little preview, like make sure you approve everything, and I was like, oh, it's fine. But I watched it and I was like, I am a fucking wildebeest. Like I was like, it was the biggest I've ever been. And I saw myself on camera, and I'm usually like very controlled. I like do my own editing and my own producing and my own filming and stuff. And it was like in her studio, and she's in it. And it was like a bad angle for me. I'm sure the angle was fine for anybody else, but like in my head, I saw that and I was like, my life needs to fucking change. Like, and literally because of that podcast, I started like working out every day and changing everything I ate, and like going on like a medical assistance and like weight loss, like all this kind of stuff. I had a mommy makeover. Like, it's been insane. And it was literally because that podcast fucking traumatized me with her studio camera angle. But other than that, it was a great time. But yeah, it's funny that that's like my weight loss origin story, the Bunnie podcast.
But you needed it. You
I
needed that.
really did. I
Like,
really
you
fucking
needed
did.
that moment to be like, okay, because you have 4 children, you have a husband, you have a household, and so it's hard to get back on track. And it's like life aligned you to, like, so not only to get your story out
Maybe.
there, but for you and your personal, because no one else knows your thoughts and the conversations you have with yourself. You know what I'm saying? I get that. Like, I've been fat Shelly for years, and that's like, I get it. And it's like, no, but it's true. It's true, girl. Because look, if I wasn't fat, and I'm fine with it, I look fine fat, but if I wasn't fat, I wouldn't breathe as hard. My back wouldn't be hurting me as much. Like,
Oh
you
gosh.
can't dispute my health isn't as good as it was when I'm fat, but I'm losing the fat and I'm feeling better in those sense. So it's like, I'm just letting you know, I know how it is to get lost in life. And then life goes, here, let me help you out. And so, because I love the podcast, I loved it. I loved everything. I felt like I got to know you more. Like, when you got married, like when you were super young to this like
Yeah.
Jewish boy, like that was such a trip. But like,
Yeah. And nobody
without
knows
getting it,
that about me. Like, I was like neck deep in Judaism, which is funny because we have like that sort of connection too.
I
It's
know, that's
like
why, girl.
so many
That's
like
why when
little
you
things
said
that
that, I
like
was like, what? But
yeah,
anyways, go ahead.
no, absolutely. But I never posted that. I never promoted it. I feel so shitty about it. But I feel like when I do, like when I get to where I want to be weight wise, I feel like I'll do like my story about how I went on the podcast and like promote the podcast. A little late now, dickhead. Sorry, Bunnie. But like promote that and like say how it got. Also, I think part of what it is like I have been back to back pregnant and or nursing for fucking 8 years. And this is actually the longest amount of time that I've been in my whole life since starting to get pregnant that I haven't been pregnant since fucking 2015. 2014, really, which is nuts. So that probably had a little bit to help too, that I'm finally not fucking pregnant and
That's
a
the
milk
thing, though.
machine.
Like, it was the perfect time for you to get that motivation. And I get what you're saying because I've done the same thing to people. Like, maybe I worked with them on something or whatever, and I'm like, I look really big. I know I'm big, but I know I'm not that big. Like, that's an ugly angle. Like, didn't you see that, people? And so I
Oh man.
myself have done the same thing. Like, I haven't promoted, and people probably think like I'm a bitch and just like, oh, whatever. But I get it. Not
You gotta
everybody
also
does.
protect your brand. If you yeah, I know for sure. You get it.
Yeah, not everybody does. And the thing is I think people, I don't know if you feel the same way. If you openly talk about it, people tend to like want to make you feel better. No, you look right. And it's like, that's not what I want to hear right now. Like, I
Yeah.
know the reality. My one girlfriend told me, she goes, yeah, it's like you tell somebody and they go, you see them when you're skinny and they're like, you look great. And then they see you when you're fat and you're like, great. It's like, which one's the lie? Because
Oh,
it is like
no, no.
in the
No,
head,
I
in our
honestly,
head.
I might be that friend though, because I think you fucking look great all the time. You're over here saying fat Shelly. Like, I'm sorry. If you're comparing to, I don't know, like 20 years ago, but everybody has a different body 20 years ago. I think you always look fucking. You literally like make money with your body, girl. You're a fucking superstar.
Fat girls like myself could do that.
Oh my
Now
God.
here's the thing. You know what I'm talking about though. And
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
no, no.
I'm
I
not
feel you.
saying that I don't wear my weight well. Like I feel like I do and I can get away with it. And no offense, but I've seen other models like kind of just make it their whole new brand when they get a little older and they, whatever. And that's fine. And they look beautiful, beautiful. I always thought you have looked beautiful yourself, even when you were heavier, like you still looked gorgeous. So I'm just the person I am inside of me. I don't want to do that. Like, I know what I need to do to look like I know I'm not going to be how I was in my 20s, but I know I can get close to it without killing myself. But I have to kind of kill myself first to kind of get there to maintain it. And that's just life happening. And when things happen in your body, it's hard to kind of reset. So
Yeah,
that's what
I
I
know
mean.
that's right.
I'm just being honest. I'm fat, Shelly.
Yeah, he's so super.
But anyways, so I want to know more about this marriage you had. I know you talked about it on Bunnie's podcast, but like I thought that was really effing interesting.
Yeah, it was really just me being put into a corner mixed with a really bad family dynamic within my own family at the time, mixed with being young and dumb and a romantic and just fucking stupid, really. Um, Mixed in with a little bit of racism, to be honest, on his parents' part, because they fucking hated me because I was Latina and because I wasn't Jewish, which I understand you want to like keep it going. Like there's a whole like heritage and lineage in that. And I'm not gonna fault them for that part, but they really just had a problem with like what my dad did for a living. And it was like going to the lesser of two evils, from emancipating myself from my super toxic, like horribly abusive mom, to like marrying into this family who hated me, but at least I was away from, this
Right.
devil that's been in my life for years, for my whole life pretty much. So it I try my best, fuck, I look back and I'm like, I cannot believe that I was out here like 16-year-old hustling, like looking for apartments, like getting jobs, like trying, living the domestic 1950s housewife life, and doing everything that I could to stay afloat in the hardest housing market in the world. I feel like, one of the hardest in New York City, even though it was a lot less crazy than it is now, of course, at the time. This was early 2000s, but it was it fucked with me a lot. And it wasn't a very long period of time. It was about 2 years. And the once I turned 18, it really changed everything. And the guy actually ended up cheating on me, so that's how it officially ended, with a hooker off of Craigslist. Love that for me. So that was literally, and I go back to that all the time because that was Reby at her prime. Okay. Like, you want to talk about like, oh, ideal body. I look back and I'm like, girl, it was not getting any better than that. And I still got cheated on. So it's, kind of been the basis for comparison for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
and kind of keeping it real for myself. But I rolled up to my high school prom with my husband. My husband was my date. And I remember how catty the fucking chaperones and all the what do you call it? Volunteers were, because they were all whispering and talking about it. And I could hear them. They were very obvious about it. Like, oh, that's that girl that got married. And I wasn't pregnant too, so it didn't make sense to people because nobody knew my story and I wasn't out there telling it. Like, yeah, it's
Right.
really mainly for emancipation. And so my mom doesn't end up in jail and, all this stuff, because his mom, because she hated me, was like saying that she was going to go to police and press charges on my mom and making false allegations against, and all this crazy stuff. So, I mean, it was just really one big whirlwind, and means to an end, really, but it ended up working out for the best because the pictures that we took at the mall. Okay, remember when you used to go to the mall and the little things where you would take your pictures, like glamour shots or whatever it was called?
Totally.
We took like our wedding portraits afterwards at glamour shots.
Oh.
So we did some of him by himself, I did some of me by myself, and then obviously we did together. I had uploaded those ones of just me and even the fucking wedding pictures too, like a fucking dumbass. Again, 16-year-old, an idiot, to some modeling website. Back in the day, like there was stuff like Model Mayhem and like OMP, and this is before it was like certified scams everywhere, like it was still, you can make it on here if you meet the right people. And lucky for me, I met the right person immediately because it ended up being my connect to who got me my first spread in Playboy, which is fucking mind-blowing. And it's because I uploaded my glamour shots from my fucking child bride marriage in fucking 2003. Just like the butterfly effect, you know what I mean? Like it had to really be everything, every fucked up thing lining up at once to produce another fucked up thing. But in the end, it worked out. So what a fucking
I live my life like that I, with that mind, the butterfly effect, because I fully believe in it. It's like even when you're in this like crappy situation that seems like you're at your one of your lowest, it's so crazy how when you fast forward, you see why it played a huge role into being where you're at now. Yeah. And it's so funny you say that because I remember I couldn't afford getting the photographer and the whole package of getting my headshots back in the day. So I went to the same type of thing and just did my little black and white. And I used to go send them out for work back in the day when how it was. Funny. You got to mail it out, hustle. And I did the same thing in that sense of like, because I couldn't afford it. It was like, you had to pay for back then makeup and then the photographer and then the studio. So it was like, it was crazy and you're young. So I totally went that route.
Damn, glamour shots for the win.
Glamour shots. So for those people out there who don't know, and you can tell us a short story, how the hell did you go from Playboy to wrestling?
Oh God, there was a bunch of little side quests in between there. And, again, sort of butterfly effect with this story, but I'll try and do the most condensed synopsis that I can. So I did Playboy, I did modeling, and I had always done photography and stuff on the side because I would edit my own pictures because I've always had trust issues with people. So I learned Photoshop, I learned photography, I learned videography, all that stuff. So was into that. I was also a huge New York Giants fan, technically still am, but I really don't have the time or energy to keep up with it as much as I did back in the day. So I would go to the games and I developed this hustle, right? Where I had it wasn't a paid site, but it was kind of like a cute, not even a sexy site, but it was like a cute girl site, right? Like cute little gallery of pictures of me in a jersey or whatever, kind of thoughty, to be honest. And then I would go and I would hand out these postcards and I would take pictures of people at Giants games tailgating in the parking lot before the game. And then, this is before cell phones and camera phones were really popping and all that. So they would want to go to the website. They would go to the website and would promote the website and eventually started getting noticed by people. Well, that turned into a full-fledged New York Giants girl thing to the point where I was doing commercials for NFL Network and on TV every game, and they would find me. And I became sort of the unofficial mascot for the New York Giants, kind of like the cheesehead guy for Wisconsin or whatever. So that led me to MTV doing an episode of True Life. And I'm sure you know what True Life is, but I
love those episode shows. I gotta look yours up now.
It's on Hulu right now, which is so funny. My season won an Emmy, by the way, so technically your girl's an Emmy award winner, okay? But so MTV was following me around, and the producer had set me up to go do something at Sirius XM NFL radio. And through there, I met a guy who was like, "Hey, I'm doing a wrestling show and I'm doing this." And I was like, "Oh my God, I used to be a wrestling fan," because I was when I was younger, Attitude Era. And, when it was young and popping and cool to really love wrestling, 99, 2000, 2001. And I was like, "Oh my God, I used to love wrestling." We kept in touch. And he got me back into watching wrestling again. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. Well, he had this show. And it's funny because I want to say little show now. I do not mean that in a condescending way. I really mean this was like this man's like side, whatever, throwaway project that SiriusXM wanted nothing to do with. They were like looking down at wrestling. And it was Busted Open, which is like the biggest fucking wrestling radio show in the fucking world right now, which is so crazy. But it was really a fight to get them to be on board with it at all. And whenever his co-host was sick, he would have me come on and just be the background co-host, whatever, the reading the social media page on air, whatever, the random background girl. And that turned into me being an actual host. And through that, we would have people in studio all the time because it was in like right by Rockefeller Center there, right in the middle of the city. And we'd have guests in studio whenever shows would be in town. And every single guest would say, oh my God, are you in the business? You should be in the business. You have to be in the business. Are you training? I was like, I can't fucking do this shit. What are you talking about? Like, absolutely not. But I started hearing it enough that I was like, maybe if every fucking person is coming here and saying this, like maybe they're onto something. And the person who finally convinced me of it was Prince Nana. Do you know Nana? He's out of New York. He's out of Brooklyn. He does like ROH. I think he's at AEW right now, actually.
Oh, okay.
But he's the one who convinced me. And he's another one that always keeps it real. He's from Brooklyn. Like he was like, you need to do this. You need it. He tried to like set me up with all these schools and stuff. And I was like, okay, fine. So that's how I started training. And then literally a month after I started training, I was actually also doing like indie announcing and sports reporting on the side. And I went to some convention and was doing correspondence there and interviews with people and met Mark Jindrak, who was doing a show for MTV2, the Spanish one and MTV2, and literally was just like thrown into it and was on. I had my first match ever on TV, which is so crazy. So it was like kind of all of that random fucking, I'm sorry, all that to say this, the fucking random New York Giants fangirl shit that happened because I had a camera ended up with me being in the business. And I got lucky because I got, a relatively big break really early on with the MTV show. Kind of like gave me some steam behind my name.
So that's why all these haters in the locker rooms don't like you, because to them, they think this is the vibe I get. No one's ever told me anything, but this is the vibe I get. Oh, well, like MTV hired this girl and then like she starts banging Matt Hardy and now she's Matt Hardy's girlfriend. She doesn't know nothing about the business. Am I correct in that?
It is very much that. But you know what is even more of a reason why people, I feel like, automatically had a reason, I use that term very loosely, to hate me before I even gave them a reason. And I've given people reasons. Like, I will give you a fucking reason, bitch. But the reason why it was initially, I swear to God, and I'm sure you can share my frustration in this, is because of modeling. And it fucking kills me because I'm not going to name names, but I can tell you that 99% of the bitches in the business who looked down at me because they knew I came from Playboy and they knew that I was a model and they knew I was a fucking sexy girl and I wore a push-up bra under my gear, looked down on me for having a website and all that. Let me tell you, all them bitches got a fucking OnlyFans. All them bitches got a Patreon. All them bitches on the internet right now. Okay. So
not only that
was a big thing of
but
it.
they're on there. They're on there on their OnlyFans and they're talking dirty. And they're talking dirty on top of it. So you were just being a professional. I'm just saying, you were being a professional model, right? Because I got the same hate. I never got taken serious. Like, oh, Shelly sucks and all this and that, because my background was from modeling. And those same girls have OnlyFans that took opportunities from me, that bullied me, that one girl in particular, I didn't realize until a few years ago, she traumatized me when I had this one match with her. And I carried that trauma my entire wrestling career. And so it made sense why I would feel sick before a match and all this. I'll tell you who it is when we're done. And then like those same girls, especially that bitch, not only, if you want to do topless and nude and talk dirty to fans online for money, I'm not hating on that. Do your thing if that's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it comes with a price because it's a lot. It can get dark, but that's what you can do. But when you're the person who back in the day screwed me over and like did all these things, and you're on there, I don't have any topless or nudity stuff for over 10 years. Like I made that decision a long time ago. And they're over there doing it all and getting all these dudes off. And that's fine, do it. But remember back then when you were a shithead to me? Like, I
The
can't.
same people. The same fucking people. And
Here, I can
it's
edit this
so
out. I'll
frustrating.
edit it out, but
Oh no. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry
and
to
then
hear
there's
that.
been times where like there was a time that she apologized to me and she
Oh, of
apologized to
course.
me. And we actually had a friendship for a little bit. And then over time, when like I kind of stepped away from wrestling, she started like in public, like just punking me out and talking down to me again. And I was just like, and then when I found out that she had like a topless OnlyFans and like all this and that, I was just like, this contradicts every
Right.
little issue you had with me. And now this is what you do. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I
Uh,
had a match with her at my early stages of wrestling. And because I was late to the show, she effed me up. And I was like a year in wrestling. And she effed me up in the ring. And I was so scared. I thought I was going to die because I had no idea. I remember she hooked me for this crazy move. And I was like, what do I do? Do I tuck my chin? Do I tuck my chin? Because, sometimes you don't tuck your chin kind of all the way if you
yeah.
take a certain kind of move. She was just didn't say anything. And she just effed me up. And so I thought I was going to die.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
didn't realize till about 5 years ago, I carry that energy with me every single time I wrestled.
Oh, of course. Of course. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's super fucking disappointing. But
But
definitely,
in saying that,
unfortunately, can relate. Yeah.
every time I wrestled you, I always had so much fun. We
Yes.
had kick-ass
Me too.
matches. We got that damn crowd. And I always kind
Because
of
you know
felt
what
like,
has to be done. Like we're not out here. Like you understand what it is. I feel like you like you have your persona, and I feel like that. Honestly, you don't need to do shit. Like not to diminish you down to your looks, but like you're so beautiful, you could just go out there and fucking stand there, and like it would be enough. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, you have your repertoire, your resume behind you, and then on top of it, you're a fucking badass. Everything you do looks aggressive. Like you know what you need to do and what you don't need to do, and like what people are there to see, especially like within the capacities of different shows, because you do different shows and it's like you give a different show to different venues. Sometimes you're, let's say, in the South, and you can be more silly and whatever,
mhm,
stupid, or maybe you're in the Northeast or whatever. In some parts of California, I'm sure it's different too, and you've got to be a little more hardcore, whatever the fuck. Like
right,
you
right.
get it. Like some people just go out there and they do the same kind of style, the same kind of match to every kind of crowd, and it doesn't translate. It doesn't work. It's like you got to fine tune it and tailor it to everywhere that you go, and like you always got that. That's why we always had so much fucking fun. Like,
I feel the same exact way about you. I remember there was a match we had. I can't even tell you where it was. I want to say somewhere in Virginia. I don't remember. And I was dating this real douche. Big, like to this day, I'm like, Shelly, make better choices in life.
I think I
So,
know what you're talking about.
and I was stressed because this douchebag was like trying to talk to me like he thinks he can like talk to me. And I just remember I was so upset. I told you about it and you just like put me at ease. And I almost feel that he was getting on me like that because A, he was a psycho jealous little douchebag.
Mm-hmm.
And B, I was getting opportunities in wrestling that he could never get because he was never a name. So I feel
Mm.
he was trying to throw me off
Killed him
going into
inside,
this
I'm
match.
sure. Yeah.
So you and I remember I just remember that song Buttons by Pussycat Dolls. I just kept playing
Yeah.
it in loop and I was just going over our match and I was getting all into it. And after our little pep talk, you gave me, and then we went out there and we freaking killed it. And I just remember
Oh,
feeling that that's one of those matches that like that's why I love wrestling. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not
yeah.
about what
Shouldn't be
like that's what it
scared.
was. Like we gelled with the fans, they freaking loved it. Like we
Yeah.
killed it. And then we were doing things because we trust each other. I mean, I'm not trying to talk to you, but that's how I felt. like we're doing things that people probably weren't really expecting us. Like they probably thought we're just going to go out there and just be like, ah, la, la, la,
Booty
whatever.
shake, hey, yeah.
And we killed it, girl. And I just love you for that. And there's been different moments like that I've had with you that it's like reminded me why I loved wrestling, because that was my second round of the indies when I was wrestling you. So and
Oh,
then a lot of that time, like when I first went back to the indies a second time, I was all gun ho. I was like, oh, yay, F WWE TNA. It's like the indies, yeah. And I had so
yeah.
much fun. And then I realized bitches are still the same on the indies as they are like over there. And I was getting in a real bad mood about it. And so the matches I've had with you, like I needed to be reminded in those moments that like
Oh,
F them, just do it. So thank you.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Same, same. Cosign, all of it.
And what's a podcast interview with Reby Hardy without bringing up Gothic Baby?
Hey, oh my God. Dun, dun, dun. Girl, I was waiting. I was like, girl, it could be anything. What is it? Let's go. What we about to get into now?
So,
Oh.
for those that don't know how Gothic Baby started, like, because here I have a lot to say about Gothic Baby, but go ahead, tell us about Gothic Baby.
So Gothic Baby was really, it never started as a series. It's since transformed into this like hugely, surprisingly popular web series throughout TikTok and Instagram and even Facebook. And news outlets are picking up on it, which is crazy. But I was sharing my nursery that I was doing, and I have 4 kids. I had 3 boys, and I thought I was only ever going to be a boy mom. So when I found out I was pregnant with a girl, I was like, oh my God. And like, you see me, I'm fucking pink, pink, pink all over the place. But I choose to be pink, pink, pink. And a big thing about me, especially with kids, especially after what I've been through, is I want them to always be able to make their own choices. So I didn't want to like indoctrinate her into this like pink cloud of fluff from the jump, but I wanted her to have like a beautiful like royal princess room, right? That's like, I don't know, maybe I'm feeding too much into generals, but I have a little girl. I want her to be a little fucking princess. Like now is my moment, to like, be girly and shit. So I was like, how do I do like a princess room without being like pink and plasticky and like, all bubblegum and Barbie? And my response to that, my solution was to do more of like a traditional actual royal color palette, which is like golds and darker and wood and mahogany, deeper, if that you would see in an actual fairy tale palace as opposed to like the Barbie aisle in Walmart or whatever.
Right.
So that's what I did. I started posting what I was doing, and the feedback that I was getting was just so, of course, it's the internet, so dramatic. Oh my God, it's so dark and gothic and depressing, and this poor child and a lack of color. And if you spend like literally 5 steps within my home, it's like it's like a selfie studio. Like every room is a different theme, a different color. It's the most color in any home that I've ever fucking been in, which is the ironic part of it. But so the first episode of Gothic Baby was really just like a satirical response to all these people who were saying this poor child, right? So let me just make a day in the life of this poor baby who just lives in darkness and wakes up and she's fucking miserable and she hates everything, because that's, might just me being a fucking smart ass. And it went more viral than anything I've ever done in my fucking life. People really, I feel like moms related to it because, you post 30 seconds of your life and people assume that they know the other 24 hours of it. So it popped off, and there were TV shows, the equivalent of The View in the UK did a whole ass segment on it, and they done fucked that up real bad, and that went viral. So that's how it started, and then I just kept it going, and it's been a great thing to look back on and like have a little video diary of her throughout the years and kind of chronicle her life. But at the same time, it's not really her life because it's not traditional vlogging. It's not really her life. It's obviously my stupid voice, just filming her, whatever the fuck she's doing, and giving it stupid commentary. But yeah, it's been so great, and it's resulted in a book. It's resulted in so many amazing opportunities. She's got a fucking plushie that you see behind me. The book's official release date is December 5th, but it's on pre-order right now. So it's been great. And it's kind of like, I saw a quote not too long ago, and it's like, when you're in your 30s, you have the option to become everything that you wanted to be when you were in your teens, but you were too scared to be. And I feel like that's absolutely what's happened here, because I've always kind of been like more dark and gothic. And I feel like people maybe didn't even realize that because of my line of work. Like if you're a model and you really, really go heavy into that, then they kind of put you in like a fetish model box or an alt model box. And that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like a model. Things were different back in the day. So like, but what 13, 12, 13, growing up, adolescence, everything was all gothic, everything. I have a picture in literally the women's equivalent of the broken Matt Hardy robe when I'm 12 years old, because that's just how I dressed. And that whole gimmick was hugely inspired by like me designing all this shit. Do you think Matt Hardy woke up one day and decided to be fucking gothic? Like, that's words like it came from me, people. But anyway, like it's so I'm like living my teenage dream right now because I've got expendable income and I can fucking dress however the fuck I want. I'm not in any industry that's going to tell me what to wear or how to dress or how to present myself, and I'm just going full force into it, and it's great.
And do you think that because of how your upbringing is, that's why you are the mom you are today with your kids?
I think so. I think everything that I do is to be the opposite of the mom that I had, if that makes sense. And,
1,000%, excuse me. 1,000%, yes.
It sounds very dramatic and it sounds like a grudge I'm holding and it sounds vindictive, and it is. And I accept that because that's a wound that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. And my biggest fear is becoming anything like her. There's times where I smile and I remind myself of her. I see her in me and I hate myself because of it. It's something that really affects me all the time. So I do the most to just, anything that she would have said no to, I'm gonna say yes to. She didn't want to play video games, bitch, I'm gonna fucking be the Pokemon master with my fucking kids. Like it's gonna be like we got a whole ass Pokemon tree behind me. Like it's just I just have to be the opposite, and that's what it is. And it's maybe I wouldn't be that if it wasn't for having literally the fucking worst mom. But and I see that you kind of agree with that, and 1,000%. I hate to see that.
1,000%.
See that.
There's times in my life when I catch myself being like my mom. That's when I'm like, whoa, okay, what's going on right now? We need to throw this in check because we are not going to turn into mother. Like, this is not happening. Like, I totally get it. But I think it's important to kind of throw out there because I think people don't realize that it's hard. But when you have that kind of growing up trauma, what's pretty cool about life is you can at least not be that trauma yourself. And it's hard because that's all you know sometimes, and you revert. Maybe like for me, it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, catch myself being like my mom. It's like, that's how I grew up. So sometimes my reactions to certain things are that, or like you're saying a picture, if I see like myself and I'm smiling like my mom, I know it's a fake smile. I know I'm going through something because that's how she did it. And so I'm like, oh, that's an ugly picture. I look like mom. Like, no, what's going on? So I get that like, and it'll always be with me forever. But I think what I'm hoping that our listeners and our viewers can get out of that is like, that could relate to what we're both seeing, we have a choice to not be that. Like, that's the thing. And that's why my patience for people who, once they know better, they don't do better is really thin, because it's hard, but I try not to be an asshole. I try not to be a bitch, even though I'm the queen bitch. But, so when people are assholes or bitches knowingly, I just have very little patience for it because of that. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no. And too, like, once you have been through the trauma, it's like, if you're a good person, you don't want to put anybody else through that. So that's why it really got me looking at a lot of people sideways when I see things happening and cycles continuing. I'm like, oh, don't you remember being a kid? And I remember being a kid, and I remember even as I was a kid, I was like hyper aware. I feel like I was a kid in the fucking meta or something, because I remember being a kid and like consciously thinking like, when I grow up, I want to remember this so that I remember what it's like to be a kid. Like that's the kind of fucking kid I was, you know? So like I try and remember those moments as a kid where when I would be doing stuff or how things felt and think like, okay, what would kid Reby think of this? Because really I feel like everybody's fucking trauma comes down to that. Everything about every fiber of who we are comes down to that, whether we like it or not. So
1000%. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but in my life, that way of thinking has helped me, but it's also hurt me in the sense of like, I've given people like too many chances or whatever because I feel bad. Like maybe if I see it, there's a toxic friend or a toxic boyfriend I've had in the past, and I see these traits, I'm just like, okay, I get it. I understand. It's hard. And then, so it's almost like living in that trauma, makes me not want to be that and treat people that way. But then when these toxic people have been in my life, I allowed it for too long because I felt sorry for them. And I
now
felt
you
like,
try to understand where they're coming from, which is more grace than they would ever give to you. And that's the double-edged sword of being a good person. And bitch, I can't relate because fuck all of y'all.
I wish I could have a switch sometimes like that. I wish I try, and then I always feel bad, and then I live with the guilt, whatever, but I'm trying to be
but it's
better.
because you have a good heart. That's why. And you know, that just speaks so much more of you than of them. But yeah, it is to a detriment sometimes. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Wah, wah.
I know. So in the world of wrestling, I know that you've had lots of negative interactions with people in like behind the scenes or whatever. But what are some positive ones that you've had? Like where you're just like, or was everyone just crap? Because I'm right there with you. Everyone's crap. If that's the answer.
I have not. I will say this. I will say I do not believe that I have had a lot of negative interactions with people within the wrestling world. I've just spoken out on them, whereas most people wouldn't because they're afraid of repercussions or because they're trying to play the game. And like I said in the beginning, I will live in the real world first before I live in the fucking wrestling world. Those are the rules that I operate under. So if you are disrespecting me and it translates to real world disrespect, then fuck your little wrestling shit. I don't care who you know, who you fucking, how long you've been in here, whose bag you shit in. I don't care. And I'll say it. And I feel like most people won't say it. So it seems like I have had a lot more problems than most people. I guarantee, I ain't got to tell you, but anybody listening, I guarantee you, there's people in the business that are way more fucking problems with people. They just don't come out and say it because they want to seem like the hero. They want to seem like the bigger person. They want to seem like they're unproblematic. And bitch, I don't fucking care. Call me problematic, but I'm going to call it how it is. But positive interactions, number one.
Yeah.
I've always had a great time with you. I've always had a great time. Velvet, I had a great time with. She was also always a lot of fun. And when I was announcing, fellow announcers, I've always had a great time with. Fellow refs. And always like kind of made it a point to keep a wall between me and any of the dudes in wrestling, just because like you stand in the background of a picture with somebody and people are going to automatically assume that y'all fucking. So I've had to be real careful about that. And maybe in doing that, I might seem a little standoffish, but I honestly do not care if I ever come off as standoffish to a man. Fuck all of y'all. But it's few and far between, honestly, the friends that I've made, but the friends that I have made and the positive times that, positive interactions that I have had have stayed with me throughout. Like I've been out of wrestling as an active competitor for years and years, but the people that I'm still friends with, like it's like we're gonna probably be friends forever. Like we're still friends for a reason. So that's what I gotta say about that shit.
Well, I love that. And I so relate to that because I get in trouble with my mouth. But there's been times, I'm gonna tell you straight up to your face right here. There's been times where I'm like, delete the tweet, and I think, what would Reby do? Tweet.
Oh no!
And then I hit that button, and then it's so funny because
I love when you fucking pop off, girl. I'll be watching you like, oh, get it, bitch, like
because who I'm talking about is reading. They are. I know you are. Just so you know. Reby knows you watch your stuff, just so you know. We know. We know. But you know, it's just one of those things where you hit the nail on the head is people feel they have something to lose, so they won't say anything, and that's fine. Like I can understand when people within the wrestling business don't want to get involved or say anything because of that. But when you're end up being straight up just a fake and phony person because of that, you know, it's
Mm,
one thing to just be like, I don't know that person that well, whatever, I'm staying over here. They don't. Then they want to know that person, even though they know the information. Like, let's say person over here is shady. Person over here knows they're shady, but this person, there's something to gain. So then
yeah,
they be fake and phony over here, but then
exactly.
just say, "Oh, Shelly, it's just wrestling. You know how it is." And I swear to God, anyone that tells me it's just wrestling, I know to write them off. I'm like, okay,
No,
it's just
I can't.
wrestling. Cool.
Yeah, it's not just a cop out from being a good person. Like I just I could never really make it in the big time. And I say this with my whole chest. Every person I have ever worked in my entire career on the Indies has ended up at WWE. And I can confidently say, or TNA or whatever, a big company. Most of them have ended up at WWE though. Every single person. You're not going to tell me that there's any reason for me to not have had that same fate, other than the fact that I didn't play the game also, and because I had kids back to back to back to back. But you know, it's statistically it's impossible that I would be the only one. You know what I mean? And it's for a reason, you know. And people love to say, "I'm sure no, it's because you fucking suck, bitch." A lot of these bitches fucking suck. Let's keep it real. Like that was not it. It does not matter.
But here's the thing. What I loved about when I was first like being around you and getting to know you like way back in the day, I feel it was when Amber O'Neil had her DVDs that she was doing for a while. Do you remember those? And you did like her
Yeah,
photos or whatever. So
yeah.
back then, I remember thinking, this girl trains and she doesn't have to. You know what I'm saying? Like she doesn't have to. And so as time goes on and you like, girl, you don't suck. You're good. I love your work. You know what I'm saying? But it,
I feel like I could have been good because I had people forget too all the stuff that's out there and everything that I've done. It was within my first 1, 2, 3 years in the business. If I'd have stayed in the business, I mean, I'd probably be fucking top of my fucking game right now if I'd have stayed in the business. Let's be real. But like, people forget they're looking at that stuff, and I'm such a fucking noob. I just started like
but that's what I mean.
really.
Like you were newer to the business and you were doing it and like it just pisses me off because what I say when people say, "Oh, Shelly sucks," da da da, I'm like, you know what? The people I've trained with and the people that have seen my matches live, no, I don't. So that's all that really matters. And
Yeah.
so when I have seen your work, it's like you were crisp, you were hitting your moves, you looked great, you knew how to put your personality into it. You were like the whole package. And I really respected that because in the wrestling world, once you got with Matt, it's like, oh, she doesn't have to do anything. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
forget it. I'm useless at
But
that
it's
point. Yeah.
yeah, you're
Erase my
just his
identity.
girlfriend. Oh, da, da, da.
I didn't
Like,
exist before him. Right. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so I really, because, and then no offense, but a lot of gals kind of go that route, and that's fine. You don't have to take bumps. If you don't want to take bumps, you get your TV time because of who you're with. Cool. But I really thought it was cool that it showed in your work that you cared and that you were training and that like the way you engaged with the audience and then the way you engaged with me when I was working with you, like you knew how to work. And a lot of wrestlers can wrestle, but they don't know how to work because they don't get
Yeah.
it.
That's a
And
difference
you
for
did.
sure. Thank you.
You did. You did.
I
And
had a chip on my shoulder and I had something to prove just from, like we were saying before, the girls in the locker room looking down on models and stuff like that. So you kind of feel like, okay, bitch, I'm gonna show you, you know? So that was
totally.
probably the biggest catalyst in that.
And that's fine. That's fine. And another thing I wanted to tell you before we wrap things up, I know I've told you this before, but I have to say it to your face. You back in the day when like you were doing those pictures with Amber and you've always been doing your site and like I remember back in the day I think you and Matt were like vlogging or something, and you would just always be on your computer and like editing it and everything like that. And I've always been a person who I always was intrigued with behind the camera. So I was one of those model actresses that always loved both like yourself. And so when I saw you like doing it, and at that time, I kind of had been out of like doing stuff like that because wrestling just took over my life. It really lit that fire in me that like I have to be that creative, you know? And then I remember stressing out when I started doing my sites again, like, oh, I don't have money for like a photographer. But then you would like post something and it's like, here's myself shot, da da da.
Do
And I
it
just like, oh my
yourself,
gosh,
bitch.
I could do it myself. So because of you, I started my secret society, which is my exclusive content that I've had
Stop. I know what it is. I
because
see you
of
promoting
you.
it all the time.
Yep.
No
I
way.
started that in 2014, and it's because of you. Because you made me feel I can do it. And
I
I didn't
fucking
need
love
to
that.
rely on any man to take my pictures or whatever. Because of you, you gave me the push to do
Oh
it.
my god. I want to cry right now. Why? That's so
I
amazing.
know I
I
got little
fucking love
chills over
that.
here.
Like I fucking love that. Thank you so much. I'm so fucking happy to hear that. And you have always been so creative and you always do your own shit anyway. I feel like I've always seen you do your own shit. So that just makes sense that you would just continue with that. But to hear that I had any sort of inspiration in that makes me so happy.
Well, now that like we've gotten to know each other throughout the years more, now that I've gotten to hear your story more through Bunnie's thing and then even through here, it's like we have so many similarities. And so that's why it makes sense that I needed your energy to kind of give me the kick in the butt that I needed to like just do my stuff myself. And like to this day, that's how I am. Like I got my little studio and I just do it myself. I know my
Hell yeah.
angles, I know how to do it all. Leave me alone.
Hell yeah,
You know.
man. Just all in one production company. You can do it. You can do it all. You do it all.
And
I
it's
love
thanks
it.
to inspirations like you. I swear to God. So there you go, Reby Hardy. Thank you.
Oh my god, that's so amazing. I love that.
Okay, so before we let you go, can you tell everybody where to find you, find your book again, and your doll, the Gothic Baby doll, and everything?
Yeah, so everything will be in my links on rebyhardy.com. You can get the book at gothicbabybook.com. It's going to be on Amazon. Well, it is on Amazon for pre-order right now. It's Life of a Gothic Baby. And then just Reby Hardy across social media. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you so much for being my guest. Don't hang up just yet. I'm just going to hit record and record. And thank you guys for watching. Okay, my camera is at 1%, so I have to wrap this up quick. I have no idea how long this episode is, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Reby. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm going to be on top of things more. I'll explain everything in the next episode. And until then, you guys just keep tuning on in here to Vampire Radio. And an extra little shout out to not only my Secret Society members, but the Vampire Radio VIPs. And let us not forget the Smokeout and Shelly live members. Positive vibes to you all. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Shelly from Kelly, and I'll be smelling all of you later. Adios. Hurry back, and remember to bring your death certificates. Hurry back.
You a little bit nervous today?
Feel great.